Today we're going to do our normal weekly market breakdown for the stocks, and if you're new to the channel, a sub would be appreciated, as I provide valuable educational content on a daily basis. If you enjoyed the video, I'm more than happy to smash the like button as well. Now before we get started, next week we've got some very interesting news for the US dollar in particular, because that's normally where my focus sits. Not saying that we don't have these other important news as well. We're coming through with some PMI, business PMI on Monday. Then we got the JOLTS job openings coming through. It's kind of the build up to the NFP, then the ADP, then the Federal Reserve interest rate, which is something I've been speaking about for I don't know, for as long as I can remember. And we got the unemployment rate as well as NFP on Friday. Now we're all gonna be looking at the Nasdaq, the US30, the SNP500, the DAX, the Usoil, as well as gold. Now we're gonna start with the NASDAQ100. Now it has been the last day of the month. Okay, so we can see that the market had closed a very bearish on here as well. So if you start here on the monthly time frame, we can see over here that this level here acted as a strong level of resistance. The market broke above that, came to test it as support did not hold. All of that support once again turned resistance. We also have a structural area that the market had printed here. The market's now also currently testing this structural level in the market here as well, giving us a confirmation that we can expect a slight pullback going into next week for the first couple of days before that continuation to the downside, because this level over here acted as a strong level of support, resistance, got broken and became support, and the market's back to test that level there once again. So if you drop down on the weekly time frame, what do we see? Now from a weekly perspective, it's quite clear that we can see that this structure that I was just referring to is the structure that the market's currently testing, and we can see in the past the market had tested and rejected that level quite aggressively. So there is a good possibility for the market to slightly pull back to that level before that continuation to the downside there excuse me, as well. So if you look here on the daily time frame, firstly we can see the market had broken below the strong level of support, came to test it as resistance. So we can see how the market started that meltdown to the downside there as well. Now once again, if you do look left, you'll see this was the structure that the market had created. Now the only situation that we are stuck with here is that this was the most recent structure that the market had created, and this is the current structure that the market is about to test there as well. Again, going into next week, we could definitely expect the market to start a consolidation phase, potentially up until Wednesday, and then we can expect that break to the downside before that continuation to take place, for the market to go and test that monthly structure that we have that is located right at that level over there as well. Now as traders, I always say that we have to be reactive and not predictive. We have to learn to adapt to the ever-changing market environment. Now the market could potentially also just break right out of it, but the buyers on the Nasdaq and for the stock market in general will remain bearish. So that's it for the Nasdaq, and like I said, we could see the market also just start that breakout, but I don't think that is the case, because the market needs liquidity first before it starts the next move. Next up we do have the US30. Start on the monthly time frame. We can see how based off last month's close, okay, the market had printed strong support that is now acting as resistance. We can expect the market to slightly pull back before we're testing this previous level of resistance that is now acting as a strong level of support. Now if you drop down on the weekly time frame, what do we see? Now from a weekly perspective, it's clear when I spoke about this market, it was sitting at this level over here, and I explained all of the reasons for why we can expect this market to drop to go and test this previous low before that continuation to the upside. And you can check last week's analysis on this as well. We had this massive impulse. After an impulse, you expect a correction, and the best way to measure that correction is by taking your Fibonacci from the high to the low of the impulse. Now we can see we do have a 0.382 pullback that's lining up perfectly with that structure. However, I do expect the market to slightly pull back lower before pulling up, and then from there we could potentially see that continuation to the downside. Now if we drop down on the daily time frame, what do we see? Now from a daily perspective, I spoke about this market also when the market was sitting at this level, explaining all of the reasons why we can see that pullback before that continuation to the downside. And that is exactly what the market has given us. Now, the best way to approach the situation that we have here right now is this was the level of support that the market had broken and closed below. Going into next week, we can have to expect the market to slightly pull back, then continue lower. And then from there, we need to re-monitor the price action to see if the market is going to continue lower, to go and test the previous level that we identified from a monthly perspective. Okay, next up we do have the SNP500. Now, we have the same price action like we do on the Nasdaq. You can see this was a strong level of support that the market had created. Market printed the same information, tested it at the neckline, printed support, broke below support. All of that support's now tested, being acted as resistance on the weekly time frame. We can see that the market had printed an equal low. After an equal low, you do expect a slight pullback to the upside before that continuation to the downside. If you look left, you can also see the market is currently testing strong support as well, giving us another indication that we can expect a pullback before the continuation. Now, if you drop down on the daily time frame, this is exactly what we saw on the Nasdaq. Now, the market once again is also stuck within this consolidation phase, and you can even take it here because this was support broken and is now testing as resistance as well. Now, there is a good possibility that this market could start the consolidation phase for the first 2 days of next week, and then when we get that interest rate decision, see the market break out and then continue that movement to the downside there as well. Next up, we do have the DEX index. Now, I've done the breakdown on this as well. So if you start here on the monthly time frame, what do we see? First, we have the market that was stuck in a consolidation that broke out of that consolidation. Support acted as resistance. We had resistance over here that got broken and it's acted as a level of support. So the market was literally stuck between that consolidation. However, the bias is to the downside. We do have this potential information that we can expect the market to create first before we could expect any continuation to the downside. So you can definitely expect this market to continue lower there as well. If you drop down on the daily time frame, what do we see? Now on the daily time frame, we can firstly see how the market had broken below this most recent structure. Now if you again watch the video I made last week Sunday, I explained all of the reasons for why we can expect that pullback before that continuation to the upside, which is exactly what the market has given us. So basically, in terms of from where we are now, we can definitely expect the market to continue lower. It's also very important that you apply the rules of the strategy that you use in terms of your entry to make sure that you do enter the market. That you do enter the, that you do follow your rules and your risk management there as well. Next up, we do have the Usoil. So Usoil, once again, we had the monthly close. We have the candle. So we had this level of resistance that got broken, became support. The market never came back to test it as support. However, the market failed to actually break and close above this level. So there's a high possibility that we could potentially see a pullback before the continuation. But if you look on the daily and the weekly time frame, what do we see? We can see here the market printed the strong level of support resistance, got broken, tested it as support. Support here got broken, and it's now being tested as resistance. So there's some contradiction between for the fact that the market stuck within a consolidation phase. And we can see it's a lot clearer over here. So if you look over here, you can see support got broken and became resistance. It got tested 3 times, and the market had literally been moving sideways for the last couple of days. So unfortunately, there's no opportunity for us to look for anything over here unless we do get a clear break out of this level, and on the retest we can look for buys, or if we get a clear break below this level and on the retest we start looking for selling opportunities there as well. Now gold is quite interesting. So I've done a breakdown on gold on Friday. If you do have me on Instagram, the market was sitting at this level. I explained all of the reasons why you can expect the market to pull back and continue lower. So I'm not going to do another full breakdown on that. You can just refer to my Instagram videos on Friday. because the analysis still stands. So basically I said we can expect that pullback before that continuation to the downside there as well. Now that's all from my side, guys. That is your stock market weekly market breakdown. I want to say thank you for your time, thank you for watching the video, and as always, cheers for years.